It's not perfect, but it's bloody close. So it's almost close enough, and the next pass is going to be 1200 grit, and then I'm going to buff it to give it that shimmer and put some polish on it. And that's well and truly good enough. That's as good as the boat is up there. So good to get a run on things lately, and this helm station has been going on way too long. Basically around about 6 months I've been going with this, fiddling and making sure that it's right. If I build it all in a week, I reckon I would have cocked it up. So today I'm going to basically establish where the winch positions are, and then I'm going to have a look at how that power winch is going to fit, and I'm also going to start the reinforcement process to make sure that I've got tons of reinforcing underneath it and on top to be able to withstand the loads that these winches are going to have to carry. I'm going to start with our Luma Evo ST size 50. By purchasing something like this and then doing the conversion myself, I've actually been able to save money. Not normally would you be able to do that, but I've actually saved a bit doing that. I was able to buy them both separately, cheaper than I could have bought the whole thing together, just in one instance. So this is a 50 self-tailing winch. It's going to live right here. We've got lines coming down here and wrapping around the winch, and obviously that's going to be the ideal position for that. Now, the next one is this one down here, and as you can see, the lines are going to actually have to go extend right down through here and meet into the barrel of this winch right here. So it's going to have to sit somewhere down here, very close to the edge of the this Helm Console that I've built here. And the other thing I need to consider too is that I can't put it too far down because I've actually got a line box here. So we need to work out where this one's going to fit. And that is going to be pretty much about where that is. So I've got one here, one here. The actual 45 is a bit smaller in diameter, so it'll go there. So now that I've determined that, when you're putting a lot of load on an item that is custom made like this, I need to consider the reinforcement of that particular area. And obviously we don't want foam being involved in the mix. We want either solid laminate or G10 material, epoxy G10 sheeting, or plywood. I won't be using plywood, but I certainly will be using advantageously some of the offcuts off my boat. Now these are serious pieces of glass. That there is at 8 millimeters of solid reinforced glass. Now it's quadraxial, biaxial, double bias, and the like in it. So I reckon that's going to be more than enough to reinforce underneath where these winches are going to be sitting. What I've actually come up with to reinforce the underside of this is this. This will be a large solid glass plate that I'm going to reinforce the entire underside of this to make sure that I'm not going to have any bending or load tension on it. And then I'll put some additional laminates on the top just to beef that up, to really make sure I really need around about probably an inch of solid material in here, and I'll core the opening for where the winch actually is going to enter the base here. So I'm going to take that down to the factory now. With that piece made, I've got to get this helm station downstairs. I can't do all the work up here, it's just too fiddly, and I want to be able to do it in a bit of a controlled environment. So I'm going to lift it out, get it down into down underneath the boat here. I've got a little bit more room to work, and obviously when I'm lifting things in and out, I've got to be careful I don't damage work I've already done. So that's often the case here. I'm lifting things out and I'll bang something and go, oh, there's another day's work repairing that gel coat bloody scratch I've just made. All right, here it is. It's razor sharp, and there's a lot of detailed sanding needing to be done. Now the area of concern is this ramp here. It's going to carry the load of the winches and potentially my jammers or my clutches that are going to sit there. I'm starting to think that I may even be better with them up on the cockpit roof. That'll actually make it a hell of a lot stronger than relying on this. So that means all the load would be on here, including the winches and the clutches. Are starting to sort of get the feeling I might be better putting them on the actual cabin top roof, which will be a hell of a lot stronger and a lot easier to protect and reinforce. But for now, I've cut a couple of pieces there. I'm just going to have to do some sanding and make sure this is all etched and ready to glue down my reinforcement parts. I'm going to leave it for the day, come back tomorrow, be able to sand it all in, and then I'm going to do another 5 or 6 layers of solid laminates over here, possibly some quadraxials, just to really beef this thing up. All right, ready to go. I've given it a good sand, I've given it a good clean with acetone. It has been a long time since there's been anything on that, and a little swipe with acetone is not really too much of a problem. You don't want to be putting a lot on because you can start to undermine the strength of the laminates within. Typically I'd use styrene, but because I'm using epoxy to glue this down, and then ultimately I'm going to be then going back to my chemistry on the top side so that there's no chance of it ever delaminating, and particularly with all the loads that are going to be on these winches, I want to make sure there's plenty of vacuum underneath and above the actual physical winch. But I've got these 2 vacuum pieces. It's an 8mm thick solid glass quadraxial. Freaking, it's got everything. It's a seriously thick piece of glass and seriously strong. You can actually see the quadraxial in it. And we want to make sure we get plenty of epoxy on here. We don't too much either, because the weak link here is in fact the epoxy, and I'm going to be clamping this in place to make sure that I get a really good bond as well. But the weak link in all of this is actually the glue. Righto, that's all glued now. That was done yesterday, so they're rock hard, and that is complete. And I've just had a good go with the grinder over here on this one, and I've got my rough shape. Got a few areas I need to fill in, and that's sort of the shape I'm aiming for. There's a couple of areas there where I didn't have quite enough foam, and I've actually extended it out a little bit further. Okay, so this is the exact shape I've got from over there. Very important I get them both exactly the same, and there's going to be a lot of shaping required. What I find, I've just got to try to feather it and foil it a little bit, but I've got pretty much the shape right, and look at that. Yeah, and it's a very messy, shitty job, but I'm going to get into it. Now, I've had it down here for a day, and I've done some pretty significant work on the inside of it. I'm not that worried about the outside, because I can always repair that later on, but once this is tabbed in place, there's not going to be much chance to do any restorative work. But this is made of about 15 different pieces of foam, and I've just given it a really good sand and a grind, and where all the kerfing was and everything is now all pretty smooth, and it doesn't look very smooth, but I'm going to do a final layer and do one layer of 600 double bias over this whole thing, and then peel apply it all so it's all beautiful and smooth, so that when I go to do my tabbing inside, I'm not going to have any burrs or any dags to deal with, because it's going to be very difficult to get to the inside of it. Now, I've done a major reinforcement on the winch plinth, and I've also tied it up all around underneath the controls and the instrument panels and everything that I have over there. Once it's in place, I'll have to do the rest of the work, and I intend to flow coat the entire inside of this out to make sure it's all nice and neat and smooth and easy to clean, and should be able to access all of it. Just going to be a little bit difficult in some of the little corners, like in here and up in the top there, where I can't quite get to behind that shelf. All right, this is going to be a pretty awkward thing to work on here. I'm just going to have to do it as I can because it's just not a flat item. It won't sit anywhere flat. And as you can see, it's got a lot of contorted shapes, but Jesus, it's going to look fantastic. I'm so excited about getting this thing in place and finalised because I'm very proud of the design here. I think it's actually, it's looking pretty slick. And for me to see something with so many different contours and shapes come up looking so good at the end of the day, just wait guys, wait till you see the final result, and then you'll hopefully you'll agree with me. Now, checking if something's ready to be laminated. If you can run one of these sort of blue cloths with some acetone over the top of the whole thing, or some styrene, without losing the cloth, and you don't rip it, then you know it's ready for laminating. So I basically have been sanding this pretty much down to get it nice and smooth ready. Doesn't have to be perfect because you do want it to be etched, but certainly getting it to the point where your rag's not going to get torn, such as what I've got here, I know it's ready for laminating, and I'm basically able to just lay a cloth on and not end up with any sort of air bubbles. Remember, this is more for cosmetics on the inside that you're never going to see, but I will know that it's done right. The one area I do need to really concentrate on is this part here. This is going to get multiple laminates, so I'm going to put one layer over the whole lot of this and then 5 layers over the top of my winch plinth, and that will make that around probably about 40 millimeters thick in solid glass. So, and I'm still yet to decide whether to put a small plinth or insert underneath the winch itself to get that final angle correct, but it should be okay. I think I'm on the money with this. Oh, I'm absolutely reveling in the fact that I'm working in my workshop. I've been in the boat for nearly 5 years and had the odd day in my factory, but I love having a bit of space. It's nice to not have to crawl around into compartments and do other stuff. It's nice just having some room to walk around. I've completed all the necessary parts on the helm station. I've still got to do the reinforcing over the top of my winch plinth, so that's what's next. It's going to be a bit awkward because I don't want to damage the work I've just done, and I don't want to wait. I'm a bit of a impatient bugger when it comes to getting stuff done. Amazing. Right, I need... All right, as you can see, the whole thing has been laminated and it's going to come up so beautiful. It's going to be as smooth as a baby's bum. This area here, however, this is my main goal, is to reinforce this, and as while I'm here I'll do these little bits of extra fairing, but I need to put in at least 5 more layers of solid glass on top of this, get rid of these screws, absolutely chock-a-block with thickness here. I really want to have a solid core here, and then I can deal with the top sides, but for now I'll get this part done, make sure it's as strong as hell to handle a load of these winches. Alright, I finished the detail fairing of this Helm Console. I'm going to give it another 2 coats of gel coat. I'm going to do a light mist coat, and then I'm going to do another final coat in about 2 hours after that sets. And hopefully that'll give me enough build. I've got a tiny little area here that's sort of, it's not quite right to my eye, but you know, putting on 1.5 to 2 mil of gel coat is going to see it disappear, and then we can come into some polishing. The first thing I need to do is I need to mask up all the areas where I'm going to be bonding it to the deck. All right, ready to go. Now I'm basically going to give this 2 coats. I'm going to do 1, clean up my gun, come back in a couple of hours, give it another coat. And the reason why I'm going to do 2 is I want to build the first one, and then the second one will go and give me some good thickness, and then I'm going to be able to polish back. And what I don't want to do is reveal any spots. Now if I do reveal any spots like this, it means firstly that I had a high spot, and secondly I can actually repair it later on. It's going to be nice to have the thing white and ready to integrate it into the deck. I've got a lot of work. There's going to be tons of tabbing all the way around the outside, all the way around the inside, my line box shelf, and then the other side, obviously with the winch plinth and everything, all has to be integrated. But I'm ready to go. I've got my gun, I've got my acetone over there, I've got my gun ready here, I'm all plugged in. Very, very important, always use an air dryer when you're spraying gel coat. Nothing worse than moisture in your lines. And you can see here that my dew point's within the satisfactory level on the gauge there. Now it must be in the green or it's not happening, but it's happening today, so let's get into it. Right, after my very successful spray job of my Helm Console, I came in today and thought it's not good enough, needs another coat. And what I've done is I've actually put a coat of gel coat on there, unwaxed. Now I did that for a reason. I didn't want to add too much wax into the mix just yet, because I like to get it all sanded down and buff. But what I'm trying to do is get a bit of build. I don't want too much thickness, but I do want to be able to certainly be able to polish it back without actually any fear of breaking through. So it's all pretty smooth, looks pretty good, and I've just mixed up a batch of flow coat. I'm going to spray it. Now flow coat's basically gel coat with wax in styrene. It's actually 5% wax in a styrene monomer carrier, and I just buy it in a tin like this, add it in as needed. I generally add a little bit under 10%. I mean, you can go higher, but I don't want to. I don't want too much wax in there because it's just going to raise the surface. I'm going to sand it off anyway when I polish it. So getting ready, just going to go and gear up, give it a quick spray, and that's going to see the end of this. I've got to give it a good, I've got to mask it all up again, but it was certainly worth giving it a good sand. I've got a little bit of more fairing detail down there done. There's a tiny little shadow line there, but I'm hoping that'll disappear on this pass. Righto, we're all masked up for the last time, hopefully, and it's a centerpiece of the boat, so I just want to make sure, because it's sitting beside some beautiful windows and a lot of other detail, and there's going to be some pretty nice gear on this. This has to be as right as it possibly can. So another coat of flow coat now will give me the opportunity to really give it a good polish. I've got pretty much all the fairing problems out of the way. There was quite a few lines, and because it's all curved foam, and there was a whole lot of stuff I had to deal with. But I think it's ready, and I'm just going to give it one quick bash with some flow coat. Well, it's had its spray, and now I'm into the tedious phase of sanding it. What I'd like to do with flow coat, once I've got my several layers of gel coat on and then a layer of flow coat, I like to get the orbital sander and just give it a really light buff with about 120 grit sandpaper. So what's actually happened here, I had a couple of little areas here of build-up of the flow coat, and that build-up was like little patches of raised area. Now you can actually remove that pretty easily with 120 grit, and then what I do is I start giving it a light polish with 800 grit. I don't want to go any further than that because I've already taken it down to where it needs to be, and already I'll just show you this. It's a bit hard to film because I've got a broken camera mount here and it's annoying the hell out of me, but I just give it a really light
polish like we do with one of the molds when we're restoring a mold. And I'll just show you the finish I'm getting here with 800 grit just by hand, and I'm not actually using any form guides or anything. I'm just trying to get the shimmer there before I start to think about polish. And obviously you want a clean rag every time you go in between your grits, but this is after 2 or 3 minutes of sanding, and I've got that down to, you know, it's not perfect, but it's bloody close. So it's almost close enough, and the next pass is going to be 1200 grit, and then I'm going to buff it to give it that shimmer and put some polish on it. And that's well and truly good enough. That's as good as the boat is up there, so I'm not going to go any further than that. This helm station has taken way too long, as you know, but as you can see here, I've basically got all of this pretty much level. There was a couple of little spots that needed to have the bumps taken down, but the great thing is it's all male. When you're spraying flow coat, you've got a male problem, and you just basically give it a little sand. Don't want to put too much pressure with an orbital. Now you could use a torture board on something like this, but I'm trying to be super gentle because I don't want to take the material off, because the last thing I want to do is have to spray it again. I've already given it 3 coats of gel coat, so all the face is done. I'm going to lift it down, and I'm going to do the top part and basically give it a bit of a hand polish, and then I'm just going to go and put it up on the boat, because I can actually finish this in the boat. This is not going to need any more. Now the good thing is these margins along here, I've got a little bit of a rough spot here, but I'm not worried about that, because I'm going to spray and I'm going to tab this in here, and then I'm going to basically feather it all into the side here. So I don't want to polish this up too much on the sides here, just, you know, to make it look good, just until I fair it in, because I've got to fair it, and once it's faired in, you're not even going to see that. It's going to be like this. But yeah, wrapped with that finish, it's certainly taken a lot of work, but it really is absolutely fantastic. It is going to be a long time before I install my instruments and my engine controls and the works, but you've got to have a look, don't you? You've got to sort of sit them in and hope to God it all looks good, and I'm pretty bloody happy. That's come up $1 million, and I'm about to go up. I'm going to take it up onto the boat. I'm going to sit it in place. Tomorrow morning I'm going to come in and I'm going to glue it in place. I'm so excited to have this bastard of a thing that has been freaking the bane of my life for quite some time. I mean, you've got to get the shape right, you've got to get the function right, and rushing it and knocking it off in a few days is just not my style. And unfortunately, if I had done that, I probably would have ended up with something I'm not happy with. The lines are all good. It's as smooth as it looks like it came out of a mold, and you know, with a polish, it hasn't even been polished yet, and it looks pretty good. I mean, once I give that a buff, get some polish on it, there's a little dimple there. I might try to fair that out, but other than that, it's spot on. So I've got a tiny little spot right here. I'm not going to tell anybody about that. That's a small gel coat repair. It just was a void in the cloth, and that'll take about 2 seconds to fix. I just dollop a bit of bloody white gel coat in there and polish it out. But yeah, pretty happy. That's looking absolutely amazing. I've got 3 displays, in fact, here. Haven't got the other ones, are all locked away at home, but there's another one here. So there's basically 1, 2, 3, possibly a 4th. There's a cup holder or something here, USB charger here, waterproof USB charger, and the Anchor windlass rocker switch is going to go there as well, plus, you know, anything else I need to do. The big power winch obviously on the plinth here, and then the 45 ST Evo right down there. Got my line box here, and in here I'm actually going to put a hatch in. Now, it's going to be a hatch that is not going to be openable because the helm's there, clearly, but the helm basically is about here somewhere right in the middle, and that's a bit disappointing. I'm not going to be able to open it. Or I could actually do it on the side here and give me access into there, and that might be something I can do, but I'm not going to do that until I've got this all integrated into the boat. So I'm going to carry it up, I'm going to sit it in place. That's the last time it's coming into the factory. I've got a clear room here. It's almost Christmas Eve. It's actually the Wednesday before Christmas, and I've got a 40-foot container of kayaks arriving from Delta Kayaks, and I've got nowhere to put them. 70 boats. Somehow I've got to put them here for a week or so until I can get them distributed out. I might have to do the big drive, the big halfway across the country to Adelaide, 18 hours each way to Adelaide, to drop off about 25 of them, and a lot of the other ones are going locally. 2 trips to Sydney and 1 to our old store here in Jervis Bay, so pretty excited about that, and a few down to Melbourne as well. So I've got to make some room in here. I'm absolutely chock-a-block with stuff in here at the moment, with all the stuff for the boat, the doors, the fridges, all the gears arrived. I've still got moulds in here, and I'm going to have a massive tidy up. Friday morning, I'm going to get the boss in here, or the apprentice, and get her into work, because she hasn't been here for 3 weeks. Janet's been busy at home doing stuff at home, and yeah, it's not happening. It's not as fast as I'd like, and you know, in the lead up to Christmas, obviously we have other things on that we need to deal with. But yep, that is not perfect, but it's bloody close. It's like, oh, this close, and I'm pretty happy with that, and the rest of it I can work on up at the boat.